What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again, and this time we are here with Eric of Despised Icon. Great to be able to talk with you. Thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Anytime, man. Anytime. It's so awesome to have you here. The last time I spoke with Despised Icon was in like the fall of 2019, and that was a kick-ass tour at the Gramercy Theater. But the latest EP is Teteri. First thing is first. Is this at all maybe a signal or like a preview or maybe just something to hold us over while we wait for a follow up to Purgatory? Or is this meant to kind of be sort of like a one off sort of thing in the Despised Icon catalog?
It's more like a one-off thing, and it's like it's a treat for fans, and I guess it can be part of the 20th anniversary of the band celebrations because this EP is pretty much a combination of two of our first demos we recorded back in the day. One of the two of the songs actually are off the Healing Process album. But they are like the very first recorded version of these two songs. They're entitled Warm Blooded and Bulletproof Scales. And that's the demo we actually use to try to get attention from metal labels back in the day. Back in 2004, we went in the studio, we recorded these two songs, and then we burned like CDs, like CDRs. I remember those, and then we printed out like cardboard sleeves and just mailed them to all the metal labels we were trying to get attention from, and that's how we landed our first record deal with Century Media back in the day. So some of the songs on the EP are apart from this are this demo, and the other one is a split CD we released on Relapse Records in 2005 with a band called Bodies in the Gear of the Apparatus, and these are three songs that were recorded just for that, but they were like limited to a thousand copies or so, and then we're long gone since then. So we thought it'd be nice to put them back available for fans and on streaming platforms.
Yeah. Well, you led me perfectly to the next question because I think that this is a very important year for Despise Icon. It is 20 years since the debut of Consumed by Your Poison. I kind of wanted to like go back because before Century Media, it was signed on a record label, and I forgive me if I pronounce this wrong, but like the Galley record label or something like that. So when you were, releasing this and putting it out on Galley Records, was the evolution that we would later hear on the Healing Process, Modern Man, Day of Mourning, Beast, and Purgatory, was this like inevitable that Despised Icon would always take this direction, or has you always kind of like improvised with your style and kind of let things sort of fall into place on their own?
Well, I guess it's just like a nice turn of events because wow, you're taking me back. But when we started back with Galley on Galley Records, Eric Galley, like the founder of Galley Records, is just a guy that we knew around here, and he's worked with us in the past. Like he came on tour with us and sold our merch on tours and stuff. But back then we were just like a local band, bunch of dudes and a girl having fun, recording music, and then wanted to put it out and play shows around here in the province of Quebec in Canada. And then I think we became a bit more serious about it when Marie-Hélène left the band and Alex, our original drummer, switched to vocals. And then we came up with this like 2.0 version of Despised Icon that everybody knows today, with the more prevalent hardcore elements in the music combined with the death metal style. So yeah, we never thought we'd be where we're at today after all these years, and even less celebrating 20 years of a deathcore band, you know.
But it's also for you as an artist an important year because when it comes to your band Heaven's Cry, it's also the anniversary of the debut of Primal Power Addiction, as well as 10 years of Wheels of Impermanence. So, like, and I wanted to know actually, being that, you play in Heaven's Cry and, you have a lot of other members who have played in other bands, Obey the Brave, being a good example as well. Does that help maybe Despise Icon allow you guys to, like, maybe bring in different elements from different projects into one? Or do you feel like Despise Icon is sort of its like own thing and nothing else really influences that?
Well, I think it's pretty much its own thing because when Alex and I started Despised Icon 20 years ago, we everyone had his own thing going. I was as you mentioned, I was part of a prog band Heaven's Cry. Alex was drumming in a band called Neuraxis back then, and Despise was just like this project for us, like this goofy thing, like, you know what, let's just start a brutal death metal band and write like stupid slam riffs and just like, go go berserk and it was just like yeah, it wasn't like meant to be serious at first, and it turned out that that's the main project for everyone that got attention and worked out. So yeah, it's pretty much its own thing. But of course, as musicians, I mean, everything we listen to, everything we do with other projects must have some sort of influence of how we write music or approach music. But for Despised, one of the main trajectory we wanted to keep was, let's do something heavy, let's do something catchy with grooves, and let's not try to be like technical or pretend to be like better musicians than what we are. So
Yeah. Oh, when it comes to the songwriting process of Despise Icon, because I think, as a huge fan of Despise Icon, you guys were like my first deathcore band. I don't know how you feel about that title, but, that's, you guys were my first. And you could really tell, I feel like every album, when you look at Consumed by Your Poison to Purgatory, every album sort of has like its own things that stand out in a way. Have you guys always started off with a preconceived vision of what you wanted a Despise Icon album to sound like? Or would you say that the songwriting process has always been very experimental?
um no, I think it's just like the natural evolution of the band sound. And by the way, I'm totally fine with the label deathcore because I mean, Despised Icon is the first deathcore band for me as well. Back in the day when we started to blend those hardcore and death metal elements, we didn't really know what we were doing, and deathcore wasn't a thing at all. It came out, or it came up like a couple of years later. Uh, so yeah, I think it just happened naturally, and I'm glad that you can see some evolution in between every albums because even though we want to stay true to our sound and what drives us as musicians for this band, we always try to come up with different elements, and sometimes we try to experiment, and also we try to not put out the same album every time, so the way it works is like we don't necessarily have like a clear vision of what we want for an album, but whenever we start writing music, we just try to come up with different elements, and we also try to refine a little bit our songwriting, and what I mean by that is the song structures. If you listen to the older albums and the older material, it's more like a collection of musical passages or riffs connected one to another. Now we try to approach the songwriting more structurally with like verses, choruses, intros, bridges, and then have like transitions in between all those elements of a song, and also try to have elements in some riffs that will come back in another riff in later in the song, just to make it more memorable and easier for the listener. I don't know if that's just me, but nowadays there's so many bands that release stuff, music that's very complex and always like changing. Like you can listen to a whole album and you can't remember a single riff, you know. So that's we're trying to stay away from that and be like a bit more like old school or traditional in our songwriting.
When it comes for you as the guitarist of Despised Icon, and when it comes to these riffs and intense elements that you add instrumentally, is it better when, like, because I've always said that your music has been very organic. I think that your music really, it is really just all of you guys really riffing hard and bringing it together. But when it comes for your writing process within your riffs, do you prefer to be alone more in isolation when there's really nothing interfering between you and your instrument? Or is it maybe easier to come up with ideas when maybe you're in the company of your other bandmates?
Um, I guess it's a little bit of both because some of the songs on our previous albums, I wrote all by myself. You know, just sitting here in my home studio with my guitar and just like just doodling with my guitar and trying to come up with riffs and ideas. Sometimes I would just like be struck by inspiration and have something in my head like a rhythm pattern or something, and then we'll just grab my phone and use the voice recorder and hum it on my phone. But also the vast majority of the songs were the were they sometimes or most of the times either Alex or Alex Grind, our drummer, they have like ideas and we will sit down together and then they will like have all these like ideas, rhythmic ideas, and will ask me to try to put like some guitar a guitar line over it, and that's how it works most of the time. So yeah, it's a combination of both. It's either I come up with stuff by my own or by myself, or it's the result of a working session with me and Alex or Alex Grind. Yeah, so that's it.
Do you think it's maybe this is kind of like a sort of like a question that could apply to any band, but do you think it's better when everybody in the band is on the same page when it comes to writing music, or do you think that maybe if everybody sort of like isn't has their own emotion or like in their own world that could help bring a lot more contrast and diversity to the song?
That's a fairly good question, but I've always been an advocate for collaboration and like the sum the sum being greater of than all the parts, you know. Because I can write a lot of stuff by myself, but I think what in the end really makes it interesting and sound like Despised Icon is the input from everyone else, you know. So I can try to come up with a drum beat and I'll lay down a guitar riffs over it, but it's the magic always happens when my drummer listens to it and then bring his own ideas into it and changes parts here and there. And same thing with when I work with Alex, my singer, to write a song. You know, he's got ideas. I have ideas. We'll bring them together, and then through working it out together, we will step it up a notch and make it even better afterwards. At least that's what I think. But
Yeah.
yeah. So it's always good to have the input of other band members, if not the whole band. You know, same thing for the bass player, like Sebastian. Whenever he comes in the picture, he hears what I did on guitars and what the drum parts are, and then he will come up with like an even better bass part for it. You know.
Yeah, and we always hear those jokes about the bass players as well, right? But they're very, very important as well.
Oh, I mean, nowadays it's crazy because whenever we do like a pre-production and we write music, we usually use a computer, you know, with a digital audio workstation software, and we can't listen to any of those demo tracks without bass on it because it just has no balls, man.
Yeah.
It's such an important part of the sound, like the bass. So I have a bass guitar up here, you know, I will whenever I program drums and record guitars, I'll have to record a bass track over it, you know, just to make it full. And then that's when Sebastian comes in, and then he will re-record something even better.
Here comes the most difficult question of the whole interview, though. How do you know when a song is done?
I guess when we're like fed up and working on it. No, usually I mean, we've been doing it for 20 years now, so we pretty much know whenever a song is done because um, we always aim for like the 3 minute mark, you know. Like whenever a song is over 3 minutes, it's we know we're getting somewhere. And then when all the elements are in there, like if like the chorus or the main riff uh, has been like in place for like 2 3 times, and then you get like a good intro and a good outro, it's pretty much over. And whenever like everyone has listened to it and said, oh yeah, right, that's cool, you know, we got it, we have something there. I mean, some parts can change here and there before we get in the studio, but yeah, usually we know when a song is done when everyone has agreed to it, and then we already moved on to some another one to work on.
And being that Despised Icon, having the two vocalists has been, sort of like a signature look for the band. Do you guys like when you hear the music? Do you know who is singing over what? Like this is a part for Alex, or like, or do you like? Is that kind of like? Do you kind of leave that up to them to sort of figure out?
Yeah, usually Alex is the one who will write most of the lyrics and figure out which part he sings and which part Steve sings. But it's been, I guess, one of our trademarks. But whenever we have this very slow breakdown and or slam riff, is we usually go for Steve's gutturals because he's really good at that. And yeah, I guess. And whenever we have like more like fast parts or hardcore parts, Alex will lead on the vocals. But I know he likes to trade off a lot with him and uses Steve's talent to like be able to either go super low doing gutturals or high pitched screams. And sometimes just the song calls for it, you know, like when there's like this a change of tempo and then you go into a fast part and it's all out blast and intense. Usually that's when you'll hear Steve like go berserk and scream super high, you know.
Definitely, definitely, and that's definitely prevalent. When I saw you guys, in 2019, the lineup, I believe it was you guys, Ingested, Kublai Khan, and Shadow of Intent. I remember interviewing that entire package, which was crazy. But like, you could definitely tell that every vocalist brings their own rules. Like, even if I was downstairs in the basement, I would have been able to tell, oh, that was Alex or that was Steve. Like, it seems like they have their own distinct methods of making Despised Icon sound like Despised Icon.
True, true, true. Yeah, and that's, I guess that's one of the distinctive elements for us. I mean, and I'm happy about it. Like when people say, you know, whenever a Despised Icon songs comes on, we know it's you guys. I'm like, that's cool. You know, that's we try to be genuine and to be distinct from everyone else. You know.
Definitely. And I have two more questions for you pertaining to a live Despised Icon show because, for me, seeing you guys live is the ultimate Despised Icon experience. I could definitely get lost when I'm listening to the Healing Process or the Ills of Modern Man. I definitely get lost into the album. But like when I'm seeing you guys live, I'm hearing the songs live, and when you guys are having that crowd interaction and stage presence, it's really just full circle. Is there though maybe a similar energy that you put into your live presence as you do when you are songwriting? Are you thinking about the live presence as your songwriting, or do you consider playing live and songwriting two completely separate entities?
Um, I know for a fact that when we started writing music, like in our early days, that was one of the main focus to be able to replicate everything live the way we recorded it, and also in in the songwriting process to I guess have some attention on, okay, is this part going to um work live in a live setting, or like are people gonna mosh to this part of the song,
Yeah.
so I guess yes, we always had consideration, or we always considered the live aspect of our music, but nowadays maybe a little less, meaning that out of 10 songs of an album, we know that some songs will never be played live ever, and then we allow ourselves to experiment, or do something different that might not be like a song to mosh to during a live show.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Do you think like cuz again I think like crowd interaction and stage presence is almost like a specific is almost essential to the Despise Icon formula live. But every time I've seen Despise Icon, it was at a place with like a barricade and stricter security and whatnot. But do you think like with the crowd interaction and stage presence, and as everybody kind of coming together, do you think that's part of it as well, or do you think that regardless of what venue you're playing in, it's still going to be a Despise Icon show?
Oh, I mean, we've seen all sorts of environment to play shows. We played like huge halls with security and barricades. We played like smaller venues where people could just like walk on stage and stage dive. We've played floor shows in VFWs. We even played like, I remember like 15 or 16 years ago on some tours, we've played some basement shows, or some at some people's house, so, but we always have the same attitude and approach to our live performance, and it's just, get on your instruments and just give your 100% to whoever is there, and supports you, and especially nowadays that we're not a full-time touring band anymore. We go out on tour maybe once or twice a year, like play a handful of shows, like, I don't know, like 30 shows a year at the most. So whenever we get to play live, it's just such a good time for all of us, So we want to give it our best, and enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else with Despise Icon that you would like to promote with the release of this new EP? Can we be expecting to see Despise Icon on the road anytime soon?
Yeah, well, actually, this EP, Déterré, comes out October 28th. It's going to be available on 10 inches vinyl. And we start our European tour along with our friends in Decapitated the day after, October 29th, 9th. It's going to go on till November 20th for 3 weeks all over Europe. And then once we come back home, we're just gonna put the final touches on our new recording, and hopefully it's gonna come out in a year or so, and then we'll try to do like a full North American tour to go along with that release.
We'd love to have you here. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Eric of Despise Icon. Be sure to check out the Deterré EP coming out very soon. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.